Hey guys, it's Ronnie, and we are here in Seattle at Discovery Park, and I am talking with Richard Cranor, the writer, director, and one of the stars of the new movie Starleaf, which definitely have to check out, and you can check out our review on the site. How's it going, Richard?
Good, man. Thanks for having me out in these woods. I think we're safe for now.
I don't think there's anything that's going to get us out here for right now. It's still daylight. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, Starleaf, we went and saw that at the premiere in Seattle the other day. Tell us about Starleaf.
You know, I've been working on films for a while, and there was a day when I was coming back from Mount Rainier, which I think is over there, and you know, we had been working on this short sci-fi film with God Machine, and we were happy with the way it turned out, but it was a lot of work, a lot of indoor sets, and just a lot of work. And I guess when I was driving by the woods, and I've been staring at these woods for 20, 30 years, but for whatever reason that day I was like, why the hell am I not taking advantage of the woods? It's free production design, they're gorgeous, they're like another character in the movie, you know?
Especially here in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's about Washington State. Washington State just has this natural, you get kind of used to it after a while, you kind of take it for granted. It's really like beautiful stuff. So that was the first thing, and then, you know, I've just got a lot of weird interests and tastes in supernatural and shit like that. So at the end of the day, I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to do something that wasn't Bigfoot either, because it's really easy to just do Bigfoot.
Yeah,
totally get away with that. But you know, by the end of that trip, I started thinking about it, and then I started just putting together a lot of lifelong issues and interests, you know, with whether it was my experience with cancer, my brother's PTSD, the way that I took another look at cannabis. I mean, I had grown up around cannabis. It wasn't something that I really liked. But after having the cancer experience, after going through dealing with my brother's PTSD, I started noticing that the way that plant has been portrayed it's pretty inaccurate, and there's a lot of other possibilities besides what we're kind of conditioned to think these plants offer us. So, you know, when you make independent films, you want to make something that is different because you have the opportunity to do that. You don't have to just rehash what everybody else is doing. So it's this big creative opportunity to do something cool, and you're only limited by your creativity. And when we first pitched this, me and Robert, you know, people were like, reading aliens, cool. But
Robert Lee Schock from Titan Sky Entertainment, who's actually behind the camera over
right
there.
over there. He was on a TV show in the late 90s and early 2000s called Earth Final Conflict.
Yes.
So
I was actually a fan of that show.
Yeah, so he's a big sci-fi guy.
Good sci-fi.
It's your deal.
It's my deal.
So we were always scheming for, because sci-fi offers you the unlimited canvas. You can really take anything and go anywhere with it, and you can do things philosophically that you're not allowed to do maybe in other genres. So really, I just sort of poured out everything that I've ever been interested in that I thought related in ways that most people probably wouldn't guess. A lot of people don't think you can make a weed an aliens film and have it be serious at all. And I was like, no, actually, you can look at marijuana and be, oh, it's just a bunch of stoners smoking weed, but then it's more than that, you know. Whenever we look at anything that way, with that black and white thinking, you limit yourself. And Starleaf was about taking, you know, very little money, very little resources, but that creative spirit that you can only really find in indie films, and trying to execute it well enough to where it would come out on the screen later for your audience and they would enjoy it. A lot of indie filmmakers struggle with that, myself included, because it's tough, but I feel good.
So how did you come up with the idea to have the Starleaf come from, you know, the marijuana from the sky?
Well, you know, it's all based on the ayahuasca plant in the Amazon rainforest, and it's also based on some trips I had probably when I was in my early 20s, back when weed was illegal, and someone laced that with PCP. So I think I had a couple of those little PCP joints. Didn't want to, but when I smoked them, I was like, whoa. So you realize that I think plants are basically a chemical gateway. They offer you know, your brain an apparatus to interface with, so that you can get into some different dimensions. I really believe that. Because consciousness is this huge topic that we barely scratch the surface. So I just based it all on the idea of ayahuasca allowing you to smoke ayahuasca, drink ayahuasca in the Amazon. It acts in a very similar fashion, and the shamans down there, they use it to try and get people to connect with their higher self. So really, the ET part was kind of how I needed to make marijuana, just to step up its game. And so you can make what most people call or consider marijuana, basic marijuana, to be something higher, like a higher octane version of it. And then I guess the asteroid thing kind of made sense, but then here's the crazy thing. This is the really weird stuff about this whole project. Each day, that's probably like an alien mosquito drone. Watch out for that guy. So the day that I had to do that animation in the very beginning with that little marijuana ball, space seed ball is flying around, you know, I was struggling. I was like, what am I going to do to make this work? And first of all, how the hell am I going to do that shit? Because I'm not the world's best VFX artist. And second of all, what is the concept? And then the night before I had to work on that, there was a article in a UK magazine about a scientist in the UK, and it's still out there, it's very legit, who detected and found these little titanium balls in the upper atmosphere that they say includes alien DNA. Some sort of like, you know, almost like a Prometheus kind of deal, where these little titanium balls, apparently they're floating around the atmosphere. And I don't know, it's been 3 months, and I've been, you know, our heads have been down into this whole thing, trying to make this film and market it. But, you know, that was, and then I realized, okay, that's it. It's got to be one of those things where this cosmic intelligence sent these little marijuana space balls full of THC and you know, whatever the male marijuana plants have, or I guess male marijuana semen, and blew it up all over the planet. Whenever there was a marijuana plant nearby, it impregnated it and gave us starleaf here on it.
Well, if you want to use something to open up your mind, that is the thing.
You know, and it's actually in the news. And here's the other weird thing. A couple days ago, we're working on a product called Starleaf Meteorite, because our intention behind the film was to not only make a movie, but to make something that in real life you could use for people, to help people with PTSD or any kind of medical marijuana ailment. And the day that we were working on the concept of calling this Starleaf Meteorite, another article appears on my Yahoo News feed, and it's THC being discovered on a meteorite fragment. I'm just like, what the heck? So
I remember the article.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, this whole project has been kind of weird. There's been a lot of weird serendipitous moments when I thought this was all a dumb idea, you know, something kind of clicks and comes into my life and goes, no, you know, keep going, see what happens next.
The universe is literally speaking to you.
It's sending THC from space. It wants me to grow it here on Earth.
That could be something. We'll have to see how that works out.
See how it works out.
Can you hear us? Are you listening?
You gotta be careful what you ask for, though.
So one thing with Starleaf is you did, in my personal opinion, you can't just call it, I know everyone's going to say it's a stoner flick, it's a stoner movie.
Right.
I personally don't see it. First off, it's comedy.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of comedy.
It's good comedy. That's what I love. Second, you also bring a lot of your own trials and tribulations to life.
Yeah.
Cancer and your brother's PTSD. What made you decide to bring that into it? Just because of it all stemmed just from the whole Starleaf?
Well, you know, it all is relatable. I mean, our problem is we're kind of conditioned, I think, in our society to look at everything very separately and very black and white, and then that keeps you from really experiencing the whole, you know, and seeing how things connect. I mean, for me personally, like I said, you know, marijuana can be something that you smoke and you walk into a 7-Eleven and you pay for the Twinkie on the way out, and as you're walking out, the guy tackles you and you're like, oh, sorry, dude, I should have. There's that. And then there's the person who's having, you know, 700 seizures a week, who smokes it, and they go down to just one seizure. So you can't, like, pigeonhole that kind of stuff, you know. And I do think, like I was saying before, that this plant, a lot of the plants on this planet, they do act, for some people, as a chemical gateway. Some of the same chemicals in the brain can be found in ayahuasca. This thing called DMT, often for DMT, it's something your brain secretes when you sleep and when you die. So, you know, if there was ever a way for cosmic intelligence to try and communicate with us, the easiest path would be here, see this planet with some plants, and when these guys have some alone time and they want to tune in and drop out, they can do it, and they're going to get some information that they're not normally going to have access to via their five senses, you know. And, you know, I've heard this PTSD, I mean, that's about, the big problem with PTSD in this country is we think it can be solved by either ignoring it or throwing a few pharmaceutical pills at it and hoping that it goes away, and that's just never going to work, you know. You got to get to the root causes of PTSD and find ways to address it. And if cannabis helps a guy, even just temporarily, it's worth letting them use it. It's such a no-brainer to me. But in general, I just think we've got to look at all these these disparate things that we consider to be separate and figuring out how they really tie together, because I think they do. I think they all tie together.
Okay. So one of the great things about Starlight is that you guys actually created a strain with
Yeah.
Ohana Farm.
Right.
So how did that come about?
Yeah.
This movie has its own strain.
Right. Well, basically when I first had that idea to make a film about marijuana from outer space, I realized I needed marijuana, obviously. And I called up some Hollywood prop houses, and they're like, well, each plant is $400, and that doesn't include shipping. And I'm like, well, I need 30, 40 plants. It's a lot of money I don't have yet. And I was thinking, well, why not actually just find, because we're in Washington State, why not just find a grower who's already growing these plants and ask them to become a partner, in the film. And they provide the plants, and then later on, we work together to grow a strain that will help with PTSD and hopefully some other things. And just, I went and found the one real stoner that I know, who happens to be my barista where I live, and he's also one of the Taliban in the movie. His name's Dylan Tomey.
Oh, yeah.
Dylan. He's a part-time barista, part-time Taliban. And I was like, hey, bro, you smoke a lot of weed. Do you know anybody else around here that might, be growing weed? He's like, well, these guys, again, this is one of those serendipitous things. These guys just showed up yesterday, and they own a farm, and they're medicinal marijuana growers. So set up a meeting, got them to plant those plants in my backyard. But then there was like this period of time where I just didn't have any money. So I was like Kevin Costner out there, hearing the voices in the woods and building marijuana crops, and they would come. And my little field of green dreams grew, and before you know it, I built it, and they did come. The investors showed up, the moving parts got going. And so really, it's not just a marketing gimmick. It's something where why not, and if you're an indie, you've got so much freedom to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So why not try to be a film, but also part of a community and a culture? Because I really feel like this all comes from what I think is the abandonment of veterans. I think our country has really abandoned them. They sort of just ship them off to war, and they come back, and it's too much hassle to deal with. You get a whole new batch. And when I studied PTSD, I studied the Spartans, I studied the Israelites, I studied the samurai. And every one of those cultures had a reintegration program. They all did. People think the Spartans were just a bunch of really tough guys. But they would come home, and they would do this practice, and I don't really know how to pronounce it right, but I think it's called Temsu Hodu. And when I did the research on it, it sounded a lot like yoga with some primal scream therapy. So they had a plan. They had a plan because they knew you couldn't send guys off the board and not have some kind of whatever. The Israelites had the same thing. The samurai, flower arranged. They wrote calligraphy, poetry. Did all these feminine type things that people would call feminine, but you wouldn't want to call a samurai feminine.
You wouldn't.
But see, so for me, so for me, I really wanted to create, because I don't really believe that our society right now knows how to deal with it, and our government is really failing. So if you make a film and you form a community around the film, then just the good nature of the people, I think, will have an effect that spreads outwards from there.
Just creating awareness.
Creating
awareness to create awareness. Which is what we've got to do.
We're lacking
the
awareness.
Movie should create. As we said, we went to the premiere and we saw it at Evergreen Bud
in Glass
in Seattle, and that was a good time. And it gives a good message in the movie too. I mean, I don't want people to see it in person as we've seen it.
Yeah.
I don't want people to see it as just another stoner flick, because there is an underlying cause.
Yeah,
in the movie that really.
And I was always like, why? Just because it's a stoner flick, why does it have to be the typical idea of what a stoner flick could be? And I was talking to Robert about that a lot. We live in this world where things can only be one thing, and that's a huge problem, because one of my favorite film directors is John Hughes, who was an '80s guy, and if you study his films, he had great comedy in his movies, but he also had really intense drama. And
serious.
Yeah. It's like, that used to be art. That used to be the standard. And if you watch filmmaking now, the way that it's all cranked out, that standard has slipped, and no one even believes you can do that anymore. No one even thinks that's. And then Donnie Darko was the last film that I saw that I really thought handled comedy and drama and sci-fi in a way that was phenomenal. And that's what's possible. you know. But we wouldn't know that from the culture we have now, which is usually this is all action, this is all dick jokes and fart jokes, and this is all super scary and brutal.
Just another Adam Sandler movie for you.
I know. That's some great ones, but then there's been some doozy really. So.
I just feel like they keep.
It's the same kind of thing,
it's
right?
The same thing.
Yeah, and so you don't have to do that. I mean, we have the freedom to kind of do whatever we want. We still have to execute something of quality, but you know, that's the great thing about, I think, this film is that it shows you that you can have your fun and you can still touch on things that integrate the deeper aspects, because that's your life. If you really think about it as a human being, you are living in all these different dimensions. You've got the sad days, the happy days, you know, all of it is your life. So I think film should reflect that journey that we're actually on.
Nice. So, as well, from watching the film, the best character in the film, I'm sorry, personal favorite, is Ranger Dude. So, where did that come from? Like, that character is just something. Well, in lack of a better term, horse of a different color.
Definitely. Well, that's just me. I'm just a horse of a different color. So this is the first time in my life I've just embraced it. And now that I've embraced it, everything's working out. It's like you spend your whole life going, I'm the oddball, I'm the weirdo, and you try to hide it. Then you realize, that's probably what you should have been doing this whole time is just being who you are. So that's kind of the joke in the movie and on set, that I'm not really acting. I act like that in real life. That's just I have this thing Robert calls Cranorisms. These little things that I say that are just kind of out there and weird. But you know what? You put it on camera, and all of a sudden, boom. It's a success, you know? Like,
it's worth 10,000 hits on YouTube.
It seems to be working. And so, but for me, in real life, you would never want to see me do real law enforcement. I would not be able to. I'd be letting people go and write tickets to save my life. So I'd be the worst candidate for actual law enforcement. But for the film, it works. I'm taller than everybody. I'm bigger. And again, I kind of wanted to have almost like this Twin Peaks element to the film, which is what I think Ranger Dave is. He's like the Twin Peaks mystery that shows up in the film and tries to, take it down these roads that you're not familiar with. But that's where a lot of, in real life, that's where a lot of wisdom comes from. It comes from the place that you haven't looked for, or the place you've forgotten about. And so he's there to kind of expose Julian to these hidden sources of wisdom in himself and in the experiences he's having. And you don't get to those places either in movies or in real life by taking the road more traveled. You have to kind of go down some weird places. Not forever. I could come back to real life when I need to, but I don't always like real life. Sometimes I like being out in the woods, walking the trails with the snakes and the snails.
And you spoke of Julian. That's the actual actor. Right?
Yeah,
Julian. What's his last name?
Julian Gabalanes.
Okay, and then it also stars Russell Hodgkinson, which plays a great part in it.
He's the
Seth Guardrail Slaughter. How'd you come up with that name?
He came up with the guardrail.
Oh, okay.
I said you need a biker name. We dabbled with it for a while, and finally he talked. I think he has a biker brother-in-law who gave him that name. And I was like, I heard guardrail because I said you're a guardian angel. That's kind of what you are. I don't know how to really explain all of their angelic guardian beings of some kind. But when I said that, put guardrail in there, I was like, that's perfect, because it hints at the guardianship, and you're still kind of a cool biker guy, so no, it totally worked out. He's one of those guys that I've seen a lot of movies locally. He's been around Seattle for a while, and he's always done a good job, and the people that have used him have done a good job, but I always thought, man, if there's something out there with him where if he keeps that biker thing, which is like the all-American, you can relate to that, but if you could just give him like this other mystery behind that, he'd kill it. It'd be a role that he would kill. So I wrote that part for him. And he was the first person I went to and said, Russell, I didn't say it's all in your court, but he didn't say yes. I'd been screwed. But I said, there you go, man. What do you think? He's like, Rich, it's cool, man. And I just happened to be shooting the first season of Z Nation, so I might be a little busy. And I was like, ooh, if that goes really well, then we're going to have all these opportunities here in Washington State, and in general have more press and whatnot. And it worked out great. I mean, his show took off, and he loves Starling. He totally, it's like, dude, sign me up for the sequel. It's like, all right, let's do it.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Z Nation. Right?
Yeah.
It's a completely different take of
Well, you had,
zombie apocalypse.
and my friend Pasay's on there too. She's the Cambodian girl.
No.
She's been a friend of mine for a long time as well. So for all the Seattle people, it's nice to finally be getting, work that everyone can see. And it's great to actually right now be making this stuff.
Yeah, Washington's making that big initiative to get more filming going on.
We definitely need all the help we can get because it's usually Vancouver or Portland that steal all our.
Yeah, they actually we were down in Portland just a while ago, and The Flash films up in Vancouver.
Sure.
But they were down in Portland filming, and we were like,
They
you just
skipped
bypass
by.
all of Washington. What you just what?
They grabbed a coffee in Starbucks in Seattle and they kept going. That's what all they need to do.
So speaking of, you hope to make a sequel?
Yeah, I mean we're getting to the point now where we're seeing the appeal.
There's still a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants to know where are the aliens from, and where these balls come from, and who are Ranger Dave and Seth, and we're gonna get into that. And most importantly, I'm not gonna lie, like I have an agenda somewhat. I do want to get into the whole GMO thing a little bit. Maybe have like this GMO corporation that wants to hijack the Starlink genome. And, right. And the aliens are all like, yes, we'll use you guys to be our proxies. Can take the Starlink and use it for our own, suck the energy out of people's souls via you guys. So it's kind of again, I kind of want to bring this up as well. That one of the things I found really frustrating about movies for the last couple of years is that a lot of them aren't relevant to anything people are going through right now. And I'm not saying you have to always do that. I love to tune out and just relax and shove popcorn in my face and have a good time. But at the same time,
delve into a world that's not yours.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're going through this fascinating change right now, all different levels of reality, consciousness, technology. And it's just silly to me that in some ways we're still watching some of the stuff that's not engaging us very well. So I wanted things to be more relevant. I feel like this film is relevant, and so is, despite the fact that it's aliens and G and outer space and all that, it's still kind of relevant. Hopefully the sequel will be as well.
Well, I think the whole part of the PSD, which I really like the drawing in there, especially. Well, I can't say it because that gives away too much stuff. I don't like to get spoilers. Everyone knows if you read my reviews. I think it should help get the message out there. What else do you have going on besides Starleaf right now? Is that
it's become our full-time job because it's a full-time marketing effort. And we're meeting great people. Met you guys, the sci-fi monkeys. We don't monkey around. Well, actually, we do, and it's a good thing. If I ever had a monkey in my back, you're the guys I want on there. But we've got all this marketing going on, and so it is a full-time job. And now we're talking Starlink too, so it's like, holy crap. We have the God Machine feature film we want to make. We made a short. At this point, it's just like one foot in front of the other, and keep trying to push it forward,
And here we're in Leo Mark Studios now, too.
Leo Mark Studios, our distributor. They're the ones that believed in us, gave us the green light, as they say, the green light.
Yeah, we got to spend a lot of good time with Maria from Leo Mark Studios at the premiere, which, that was the best premiere ever, I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
It's a good crowd. You were really...
The great thing about the premiere was that it was the first time me and Robert were able to really take it in with an audience. And it was awesome because I see now where the film really has a big chance of being a long-term success. Because I really hate films you watch once and never see again. I've always wanted to have something like a Big Trouble in Little China type film where you go back years later. And so you have to give people what they want. You don't have to give them entertainment, but then I try to sneak in some of the bigger philosophy when I can. But you do it in a way that makes it accessible and it's still a communal experience. So it was fun to see it as a communal experience and see that there's some lines in that film and some moments where I think people are going to have a lot of fun, reciting later. And it won't be something, I hope, like The Room, the Tommy Wiseau film where everybody goes and they do like that. Have you ever seen The Room?
No.
Oh, Lord. There's just no Tommy Wiseau here.
No Tommy Wiseau. Now I have to look something up after this.
I think Starleaf will be a cult classic. I mean, it's maybe, I might sound arrogant saying that, but I designed it to be that. I wanted it to be a film that you watch more than once, something that engaged in different levels and was fun. And granted, we didn't have an ILM budget, but we pulled off, I think, what we needed to pull off to convey the story and have some fun and lead to some bigger things later as well.
Well, as people can read in my review, as I state, the whole film entirely. I mean, you pulled off much more than most of these sci-fi movies we see on the Sci-Fi Channel these days.
That's
so.
true. A lot of them just have a pterodactyl come by and, you know, whatever, land on Saturn. But here it was like we took the woods and stretched out these woods as far as we could stretch them with all the aliens and marijuana and rangers and whatever else we could put in there. And somehow it works, and we're really proud of that.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
It definitely works. Like I said, we've seen it, we love it, and I'm hoping it becomes a cult classic. So, well, like I said, I'm here in the woods with Richard Cranor, and we've been talking about Starleaf. And I'd like to thank you for coming by and talking with this man. I'm sure we'll meet up again. Yeah. All right, guys. Ronnie, Sci-Fi Monkeys, Starleaf the movie, starleafmovie.com. You can buy it now.
That's right.
All right.